Hello and welcome to Mrs. Shepherd's classroom. I'm Dana the Explainer, and today's lesson is on integers in absolute value. So let's start out with what is the definition of an integer? Well, it says here that an integer is the set of whole numbers and their opposites. So let's think about what that means. A whole number, let's see, it's just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and obviously goes on and on forever. Those are whole numbers. There are no decimals or no fractions. They're just kind of the numbers that you count with on your fingers. But they're the whole numbers and their opposites. So the opposites, that would be -1, -2, -3, and so on forever. Those are your integers. Think about where you might see integers in the real world. So where would you see a positive number versus where do you see a negative number? Here's an example. I'm on top of a mountain. That's going to be a high elevation or a positive number. Or maybe I'm swimming with the fishes under the sea. This would put me below sea level, which would represent a negative integer. Here are some more examples. Well, first, maybe you have an elevation of 2,000 feet. Or maybe you have a profit, you've made $50. Or you deposited money into the bank, which means you have an additional, let's say, $100. Or, since it's football season, maybe you gained 10 yards. And now negative words, if you're below sea level, maybe you're below sea level 100 feet. So that would be negative 100 feet. Debt. Maybe you owe someone else money, so you are negative $35. Withdraw. Maybe you're taking money out of the bank, so you're taking money out. Maybe you're taking out $200. Or there's a penalty, so you just lost as a team 15 yards. So you have to go backwards 15 yards, negative 15 yards. So here are examples of integers in the real world. Now we're going to look at different integers and see if we can decide which one is larger or which one is smaller. We're going to compare them, put them on a number line, and then we're going to rewrite them in order, least to greatest or smallest to largest. So, to start out, here's a set of integers, and I'm just going to place them on the number line. So I have -3, and 5, and 1, and -6, and -1. So, the smallest is always the furthest left, and then it gets larger as you go to the right. So if I rewrite them, I'm going to rewrite them in order. -6, -3, -1, +1, and 5. The rule that I always say is that the bigger negative is the smaller number. Because if you look at your three negative numbers, 6, 3, and 1, 6 is the biggest one, but because it's negative, it's the bigger negative, which actually makes it the smaller number. Here is another set of integers. I want you to pause the video and see if you can plot them on your own and then order them in order from smallest to largest. Now, moving on to absolute value. First, the definition of absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. Distance from 0 on a number line. So here I have a number line where 0 is at the middle, and basically you put any number on that number line, you always are just counting how far away is it from 0. And what I want you to think about is the word distance. And think about a ruler. when you're measuring distance, it's always positive. There are no negative numbers on a ruler. So whether you're going forwards or backwards, it's the amount that you've traveled is always positive. So let's say we have -3. Well, you're at -3, so you've gone to the left, but how many units are you away from 0? 1, 2, 3. So even though you're at -3, the distance, you're 3 units away. So the absolute value of -3 is a +3. So here are some more examples. Those 2 bars is how we represent absolute value. So the first one says absolute value of -8. How many units away are you from 0? Well, you're 8. So absolute value of -8 is just +8. Absolute value of -4 is +4. And then 12, a lot of students get this confused and they try to do they just switch it and say -12. Well, no. If you're at 12, you're 12 units away. So everything, it's always positive. So real quick, just to emphasize that concept, think of you have opposites. So the absolute value of -50 versus the absolute value of its opposite, which is 50. Both of those have the exact same answer. Both of them are 50 units away from 0. So for both of those, 50 is your answer. Okay, we're going to do 3 more examples that involve the concept of absolute value. The first one, it says negative, the absolute value of -23. So let's think about what that means. When you do this, you have to first think of this like as order of operations, parentheses. You have to start in the middle. And you have to think, what is the absolute value of -23? The absolute value of -23 is +23, and then this negative sign from out in front comes down. So in this case, your answer is -23. Okay, the next one, this says 8 times the absolute value of W. But I'm going to tell you that W equals -6. So we have to put in, let's see, -6 in for W. So let's rewrite it. We now have 8 times the absolute value of -6. And then you always evaluate the absolute value first. The absolute value of -6 is a +6, and then bring down your 8, so it's 8 times 6, which is 48. Alright, last example. 5 plus the absolute value of t, where t equals -8. So we're going to insert -8 in for t, so let's rewrite it. 5 plus the absolute value of -8. And now let's do the absolute value first. The absolute value of -8 is +8, and then bring down everything else. So 5 plus 8 is 13, and that is our answer. Do you know what I do when I'm feeling negative? I take the absolute value of myself